Welcome to your 12-minute HR lesson. Today we're going to talk about HR strategy and where it comes from and how you can't just look upwards and say, what do you think we should do? You tell me what to do. Because the worst answer they can give is, well, what do you think we should do? Because most of the time when it comes to HR strategy, doing what we want to do doesn't get us very far. What we need to be able to do is to look at what the business needs and give it to them without them having to ask, just like a good butler should. So for all things butlery and more, let's go. So in my bios, I always describe myself as an HR practitioner, HR consultant, and as an educator. I take that educator side quite seriously. I come from a long line of educators, and you could say it's in my blood. What I'm trying to do at the heart of all education is taking an idea out of your brain and placing it in someone else's brain. It's like meme theory, if you know that theory. If it's not in your brain, independent of me explaining it to you, then I haven't done my job. And there's lots of different ways in which I go about that. One tool I frequently come back to is analogy and metaphors. It has its pros, it has its cons. But when I'm trying to convey how people feel and how people make decisions in certain feelings and intuitions and reasons, and whether or not those are good things or bad things, it works well if you can put people in similar situations, if they can empathize to a certain scenario, if they can imagine themselves in a scenario, and the best way they can do that is through analogy, through here's a situation that you have empathized with before, empathize with that again, and then let's transfer those feelings and that conundrum and what makes a good choice and what makes a bad choice to this other situation. The place I've found that I've recently had to kind of push myself a little bit is in our courses on HR strategy, in which I've been trying to get ideas into my participants' brains that I kind of needed to work a little bit harder on. I came up with a good analogy about how to manage HR strategy upwards. And I want to talk to you about that today. So I want to talk to you about a very specific, I could not get more niche if I wanted to. I want to talk to you about a very minor point of a very old book and a quite old film. Yes, it was running for Academy Awards that year, but mostly this film and this book has been forgotten, and that is Remains of the Day. You may have read the book, you may have seen the movie, you've probably mostly forgotten about it. So let me give you that short synopsis. The Remains of the Day is a story about an old, upper class, I want to say Victorian so then you understand it, but it's not technically Victorian. It's not even technically Edwardian. It is the interwar years. It is essentially exactly the same time period of Downton Abbey. So if you know Downton Abbey or you're familiar with Downton Abbey, it's exactly the same. Our central protagonist is a butler called Stevens. In that period, the butler was the head of the house. He was in charge of quite a large organization of people, of valets, of servants, of maids, of groundskeepers. It was quite a large operation, and essentially the butler was the manager of it all. He organized, he controlled everything. He's played by Anthony Hopkins in the movie. I'm not going to talk about the unrequited love plot. I'm not going to talk about the politics. I'm not going to talk about the Victorianness or the values or any of those sorts of things. What I want to drill in on is a really interesting phenomena that you cannot see so perfectly anywhere else. Mr. Stevens has been a butler his whole life. He has been in service his entire life. He never had a family. He never got married. He has been dedicated to the household. He is the product of generations of butlers. He is the absolute perfect quintessential Victorian English butler. Yes, we're in the Georgian era, but that doesn't really matter. He is the outcome of that particular type of servant. What he is exceptional at is knowing what needs to happen before it needs to happen. He is there to anticipate and drive and organise 2 steps ahead of Lord Darlington. He doesn't need to go to Lord Darlington and say, tell me what to do. He goes to Lord Darlington to say, these are the things that need to have happened. I have done them, without being directive. He has to be 2 steps ahead of both his lord and the manor to which he is in charge of. And this is an interesting subplot, like a very minor point that happens in a very small part of the book. In the end, the manor is sold by Lord Darlington and it is bought by Mr. Faraday. He's an American gentleman, I believe played by Christopher Reeves in the film. He takes on Stevens because he wants not just the house, he wants the whole servant, he wants the whole shebang. And there's an interesting exchange in which essentially Stevens wants to get a sense of what he ought to be doing for Mr. Faraday. And Mr. Faraday essentially says to him, I don't know, I'm not familiar with this environment, you do what you think you ought to be doing. And just that will be fine. And that sort of leaves Stevens at a loss and slightly frustrated, because he's not here to do what he wants to do. He is here to know what his lord wants him to do without him even asking. And here's the lesson. When given the opportunity of deciding what we think we ought to do, that can be a trap. That can really put us in a situation where we do what we think we ought to, we can end up doing the wrong thing. Mr. Faraday saying to Mr. Stevens, well, you do what you think you ought to do according to your priorities, isn't giving us good outcomes. And this is what I see a lot in HR strategy. This is what I see in a lot of organizations. CEOs are very busy. CEOs have some major headaches to look at. They have to figure out the finance, they have to figure out the ops, they have to figure out the sales, they've got to figure out how the money is coming in and where they're going to get more money from and how much they're spending to get it there. Sales and finance and operations sucks up so much of their time. They don't have time to tell HR what the strategy should be. Almost all of the time, when it comes to working out what are the strategic focuses of HR, it falls into the, well, what do you think you should do? Okay, let's do that. And that's why, to my mind, a lot of HR strategy falls into this PR, internal marketing field. This is why we spend so much of our time in HR focusing on the appearance, visuals, and comms of what a great place this is to work. Is that what the business needs? Is that us focusing on what is going to make the boat go faster? Or is that allowing us just to do what seems to be the right thing at the time? What we need to do is we need to be Mr. Stevens with Lord Darlington, not Mr. Stevens with Mr. Faraday. We need to be able to look behind what needs to happen. We need to anticipate what the business needs from its HR strategy. There is no greater need for managing up in HR than setting the strategy for the business, because we can't rely upon the business to say, let me tell you how to do your job. Let me tell you what's important. So here's the secret sauce. This is the key takeaway. When you're trying to figure out what are the strategic focuses of HR and the HR department, look to the business strategic plan, not the mission statement. What is the plan of this business? And if you want a shortcut, what is the market? What is its competitive advantage? If you want to make the boat go faster, you need to know which way it's heading. If you're going to be pushing for engagement and higher RAM and higher retention, when your organization is focused on a cost basis, if it's looking to be a cost leader, trying to drive up salaries is either going to get you nowhere or it's going to get you paddling in the wrong direction. If you're trying to retain key talent by saying, well, our REM strategy has got to be 110% of the market, that's heading in the wrong direction, a totally different ethos. And you don't want to have that awkward conversation when someone pays attention to what you're trying to do and go, hang on, that doesn't match at all. So if you want to know what's important, what is the business's strategy? What is the business's plans? What is it trying to be good at, better than its competitors? Okay, and what are the people needs around that? If you've got an R&D focus and you're focusing on a very specific type of technology or a very specific type of service, okay, well, you need to focus your L&D strategy in that area. This isn't rocket science. It's very easy to say, okay, what as an organization do we need to be good at? And if we're going to spend time, money, and effort, what do we need to do from a people point of view to make that a success? When we are figuring out our strategy, we need to manage up. I'm definitely not giving you homework on this one. Watching Remains of the Day, if it really piques your interest, absolutely go for it. It is a bit dated. It is wonderful. It has this almost unique, old-timely, in-the-moment feel. The closest comparison I can think of that's modern is a Wes Anderson film. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you find this interesting, check out our courses. If you have a bit of an interest in HR strategy, we do have a course on that kind of kicked this whole thing off. But other than that, have a look at our other courses if you think they might be of interest. Have a look at our services if you think that we can help, if we're the type of people that can really fix some problems that you might have going on. We do problem solving, but we do also do the big picture stuff. If you think we can help, get in contact. If you don't, it's not a problem. Keep listening. If you want to pay us back in a small way, like, share, repost, anything like that that kind of pushes our message and our story and these lessons out there, we'd very much appreciate it. Other than that, I'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.